The COVID-19 global pandemic has affected nearly all facets of life for people all across the world. So many public events that had become normal in everyday life were either modified to accommodate safe numbers of people or were canceled altogether. One such event that we never got to see in 2020 was the 32nd Olympic Games, which were to be held in Tokyo, Japan. When most people think about the Summer Olympics, they likely think superstar athletes who have defined this era of modern sport. People like Usain Bolt and Michael Phelps, who left powerful and lasting impressions of their dominant performances. What most people likely do not think about when it comes to the Summer Olympics is civil engineering and how it applies to the time and the effort it takes for a city to prepare itself to host this quadrennial sporting event. For one thing, once a city has won the bid to host the games, it has to make sure they can handle the sometimes upwards of 1 million people, athletes and spectators, who will be arriving from all over the world. City planners and event organizers have to ask themselves questions such as, how will all these people move about the city? Is our current public transportation system capable of handling this increase in use? They must also consider housing. Both tourists and athletes have to have somewhere to stay, and all will likely want to stay as close to the city center as possible, or wherever the majority of games are being held. And of course, the city must renovate, if not construct from scratch, all the facilities that will hold the over 33 sports that athletes compete in over the course of the games. The best way to get a picture as to what this process might look like is to look at past examples. This presentation will serve as a brief history of how Atlanta, Georgia prepared for the 1996 Olympic Games. Unlike Los Angeles, the last U.S. city to host the Games, Atlanta was starting basically from scratch. Planners representing the city, the state, and the Atlanta Committee for the Olympic Games, or ACOG for short, had to come together to transform Atlanta into a worthy host city. Now, while the 6 years between winning the bid to host the Games and the start of the Games may sound like ample time to complete all the renovations and construction, the reshaping of Atlanta proved to be far more time-consuming and expensive than anybody could have imagined. Plans were constantly being revised or simply thrown out due to financial constraint, political interference, public discontent, and even the death of one construction worker. One of the biggest concerns of the people who lived in Atlanta at the time was the effect that all this construction was going to have on traffic. According to an April 10th, 1996 New York Times article by Kevin Sack, a section of highway just north of Atlanta saw a traffic flow increase of 37%. On that same highway just south of downtown, that traffic flow increase was 67%. Many modifications were also made downtown. Nearly all sidewalks underwent widening in anticipation for the crowds of spectators and tourists. Many streets started becoming closed off to vehicular traffic in order to make way for the special network of buses and trains that would carry athletes and officials to various sporting locations. Even in 1996, political tensions interfered in some aspects of Atlanta's Olympic transformation. Democratic Mayor Bill Campbell and Republican State Attorney General Michael Bowers got into a fierce argument over public safety on the streets of Atlanta. One side claiming that international incidents would arise with tourists being mugged, and the other side arguing that Atlanta was a safe enough place for tourists to roam freely. This debate made headlines as far as Tokyo, Japan, and London, England. The biggest setbacks came when structural components from both the Olympic Stadium and the Olympic Aquatic Center failed while under construction. This led to a huge financial loss, injuries, and even one death. In March of 1995, construction worker Jack Falls was killed when a light truss fell at the 83,000-seat Olympic Stadium. An independent engineering firm out of New York was called in to analyze what had caused this incident. As suspected, it was determined that multiple miscalculations had been made in the design of the truss. This ended up leading to the Falls family filing a lawsuit against the ACOG. Just over 1 year later, another engineering failure caused two 10,000-pound joists to fall at the Olympic Aquatic Center. While fortunately nobody was hurt in this incident, 4 ironworkers did quit their jobs. The cause of this incident was determined to be insufficient welding. A third and more permanent engineering failure took place in the Olympic Village, which now serves as student housing for Georgia Tech. Just over a year after being completed, 2 of the towers which were to serve as athlete housing were found to have sunk nearly 9 inches into the ground. While this was initially very alarming, chief engineers recommended nothing more than continued monitoring. As of today, this dramatic settling has caused no further issues. In the end, accidents such as these are not entirely unexpected with a project so monumental as the transformation of a city. With so many facilities being under renovation or under construction, accidents were kind of bound to happen at some point. In fact, Atlanta is by no means the only city to have experienced these kind of events. In preparation for the 1976 Olympic Games in Montreal, a 55-ton concrete beam fell from the side of the Olympic Stadium and completely destroyed the sidewalk below it. More tragically, a report released by Rio de Janeiro's Regional Labor and Employment Office states that 11 workers were killed while working on Olympic-related projects. Winning the bid to host the Olympic Games is a huge honor and achievement. The Games add so much to a city's history and legacy, and incredible Olympians and Olympic moments will continue to inspire us. From Nadia Comaneci becoming the first gymnast to earn a perfect score 10, to Obebe Bikila winning the men's marathon while running barefoot. However, it is equally as important to reflect on and appreciate all the math, science, and civil engineering that makes it all possible for us to enjoy.